The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith. And since it's the last day before a long weekend for some of us, for one of the holidays brought to us by Black veterans, see our previous episode with Professor Usman Power Green of Clark University about that, we felt we should lean into the celebrating because we all could use a day off at this point. So later in the show, we'll hear beautifully nostalgic sounds of Michael Lesko and Sophia St. Helen, who'll perform at the Parlor Room tomorrow night and celebrate the burgeoning wine region of the Pacific Northwest with winemaker Kate Norris of Division Wines. Speaking of regions, though, it's one of the clearest ways to tell place.
We're going to talk about regionalisms.
Yay!
And, I maybe am not going to know the answers to all your questions, but we'll just see how it goes.
I love this.
I love it.
Emily Brewster, resident wordster from Merriam-Webster, originally from where?
I grew up in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. So our program director here, John Sutton, will love this because he loves Pittsburgh so much. Khalees was born in Roxbury. I was born in Dorchester, grew up in the suburbs. Khalees spent a lot of time in the D.C. area. And we're going to talk about regionalisms and what we know about them.
So did both of you grow up with non-rhotic accents?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. For those who don't know, rhotic means retaining an R sound specifically before consonants and at the end of a word or of a sentence.
So I was born at St. Margaret's Hospital in Dorchester.
Beth is real.
You have no R's in that anyway,
Dorchester.
so yeah. Dorchester, St. Margaret's.
Israel?
That's in the middle, but that's a good example because that is an R before a vowel.
Yes.
Right. And Monty, give me a sentence that says what state your city of birth is in.
Massachusetts.
No, you got to put in a sentence like
Dorchester is a part of Boston that's in
Dorchester's a part of Boston that's in Massachusetts.
Okay. I wanted to see if you were going to pronounce the final R in Dorchester when the word is comes after it.
Dorchester is. No, I don't think you would.
Yeah, Dorchester is.
No,
I don't
sometimes it does. Sometimes the R comes in when the sound that follows it is a vowel. So I think when a lot of people are imitating a non-rhotic accent, if they grew up with rhoticity.
Oh, I love rotisserie. Chicken. We had a fight with Jim McGovern about that on Thursday.
They think that the R's are just all gone, but that's not actually true.
Right.
The R's reappear. In a word like drawing, sometimes there'll be an R inserted. Or somebody might say, if you have a sentence like I saw it, it might come out like I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Yeah, the R gets actually put in.
Or my favorite is when it's added to the end of words that end in vowels, like Melissa. Where were you born? So my wife's mother calls her Melissa a lot of the times, depending on what word is following in the sentence.
I love that. I think it's so interesting.
And I love that that's a thing that happens in various other parts of the country, too. Like my grandmother, who's from Virginia, would say warsh.
Warsh, putting an R in there.
Yeah. And do you know where this non-rhotic accent in English, which has lots of variations, right? But there's this kind of trail of this non-rhotic accent that goes down.
The non-rhotic trail. I love it.
Can't they call it the non-rhotic road? Sounds like it'd make more sense.
Oh.
It's rhotic.
It comes from the people who came here in the 18th century. So people coming to the early American port cities were settled, a lot of them were settled before 1750. And a lot of the people who did that settling came from southeastern England. And at that time, those people dropped their R's in the same kinds of places.
Yeah, I've often noticed that the Boston accent is just a
like
different version of an English accent, really.
Yeah. I think that's so fascinating. I remember when I learned that and realized, actually, they're just kind of Britisher. Britisher.
We're Britisher. But we don't sound as pretentious or smart. Although nothing makes me feel more like in love than when I hear somebody who is smart speaking with a Boston accent. I love it. Marty Walsh used to be the mayor of Boston, and he then became the transportation secretary under Biden, I believe. And he would...
Transportation secretary.
He would get out there and he would say all these things about how, like, immigrants are a part of our country.
In Boston, we will continue to stand with our immigrant communities no matter what. We are one Boston community that looks out for one another.
And I'm so used to being bullied by that accent that when I would hear somebody not bullying and saying something actually wonderful, it's so heartening to me.
Same thing, like when we moved away, every time we'd come up to stay with my grandmother for the summer, like we'd watch TV and just like newscasts with people with like soft New England accents, soft Boston accents was just like the most comforting thing.
Indeed.
Parts of this bill are similar to the executive orders that have already been put in place in New Hampshire.
So I grew up in Pittsburgh, but my parents were both from New York City, and all my extended relatives were from New York City. So like the Brewsters are just all over Long Island, right? So I kind of grew up with this sense of what a Long Island accent was. So the Pittsburgh accent was a topic of conversation in my family. We would discuss the accent because it was very different from the New York accent of our extended family and of my parents. So I paid a lot of attention to the Pittsburgh accent. One of my favorite elements of the Pittsburgh accent is, and it's not just Pittsburgh, this is actually broader, it's kind of all of Western Pennsylvania, is the word redd, R-E-D-D. And it means, it's usually used the word up, and it means to like to tidy up.
Red up.
So if you've got company coming over, you'll say, I got to red up the house. And that means I've got to clean up my house.
I got to red up the
say
house.
house, not house.
Wow, I love
Yeah.
that.
I just love, I love that one. Now, an interesting thing, I didn't learn this until college, that red, that use of the word red is, comes from Ulster, Scotland.
Oh.
Whoa.
Yeah, they still use it there.
Huh.
So that was a very, very particular immigrant population that brought that word over. And then that word just settled into that particular dialect of American English.
Cool.
We're talking regionalisms with Emily Brewster, our resident wordster from Merriam-Webster. What are some other fun regionalisms that you want to talk about?
You ever hear anybody say, "Oh, I just got to sneak by you"? Oh.
Yes.
Ope?
O-P-E. O-P-E.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
It's also Midwest, but
Yeah.
further west than Pittsburgh is considered. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois.
Ohio.
And also some people in North Dakota apparently use it. Maybe an alteration of oops.
Yes.
But it's it's a really gentle and efficient way to kind of say, I've got to impose on you for just a moment and I'm sorry.
Ope. Yeah.
Just gotta
That's cute.
Yeah. I think that one's very cute.
We did have a question a long time ago from a James Mayuski wondering about regionalisms and linguistics, and especially as it pertains to the Connecticut River Valley, because most people who are from here don't have what would be considered a Boston accent, nor do they really have a New York accent. They have something closer to what would be considered an upstate New York accent, which to me is leaning towards Canada in its accent.
I mean, there is a way that New Englanders speak that I would say Western Massachusetts leans into that isn't quite New York. Like, it is kind of its own thing, because you still hear like people in down East Maine talking like that, in New Hampshire talking like it, Southern Vermont talking like it.
Maybe Southern Vermont. But when I go to Seashore, Maine or New Hampshire on that side, it's all basically just still the Boston accent. But I don't hear it from people that grew up here. Things I do hear are like $100. And James's question before was saying things like Sunderland, where you like dropping some of the D sounds or the hard endings of things. You know anything about those regionalisms for the Connecticut River Valley? I'll give you $100 if you do.
Really?
Maybe.
That is so much in dictionary land, you have no idea.
We should value the language more.
Yes.
I don't know that to be a feature of the dialect of the region where we are, but it is a pretty natural inclination for language speakers to implement. Like, don't enunciate every sound like I somehow do without thinking about it.
Yeah. That's why you're so wicked, you're wicked smart.
Uh,
Other fun regionalisms from other places?
Well, of course. You both grew up talking about the thing you might get put on ice cream, the little rod-shaped bits.
Yes.
Yes.
You call them what?
Jimmy's.
Jimmy's.
Which
I was then told was racist, but then I looked up the history of it, and luckily it's probably not.
No, probably not.
Because the chocolate ones were always the Jimmy's, and then somebody was like, they're called Jimmy's because of Jim Crow laws. And I was like, oh my God, I will never say this again. And then I did more research, and they're like, they're actually not. They weren't called it that for that any reason at all. Yeah. It's totally fine to call them Jimmy's.
And Jimmy's was specifically the all chocolate ones because the other ones are sprinkles.
Rainbow sprinkles.
Rainbow sprinkles, right.
Which Melissa does not like the kids to get because there's so much food dye in those.
Fair.
The Jimmy's.
That's a
just regular
valid
chocolate.
concern.
Yeah, right.
Oh, but Jimmy's.
Yeah, Jimmy's are fine.
Yeah. This has now changed. But when I was new, I first moved from Pittsburgh to Boston to go to college. And when I moved, the idea of a frap was kind of a big thing. Like it was a milkshake in Pittsburgh and also on Long Island. A milkshake could be thick. It was thick and had ice cream in it. It was not just shaken up milk, because who wants that?
Right.
But then in the Boston area, a frap was much thicker in a milkshake, and people would order actually milkshakes. And I know all of this because I scooped ice cream for a living for a short time. So I learned about all these things. Brigham's.
Okay.
Which is a regional ice cream shop in Quincy, Mass.
Yep.
Brigham and Women's. That's one of the hospitals in Boston that my aunts worked at.
They had a great counter. My great-grandmother would take me there after school for lunch when she had me, and my parents were still at work. And we would get fraps and hot pastrami sandwiches with the red pastrami, because they were one of the places that served it.
I love the red pastrami.
Wait, at Brigham's?
Yeah, at Brigham's.
Wow. But not the one in Wollaston, in Quincy.
No, the one in Mattapan.
Yeah, they used to be all over, those Brighams.
Yep.
The other thing...
I loved that job. That was super fun.
You probably had jacked arms after scooping all that ice cream.
For sure.
I think we talked about this with Jim and Marjorie, maybe, when they had us on recently for 413 Day. But in Rhode Island, the frap is not a milkshake or a frap. It's a cabinet, which is very weird, and the only place I know of that calls it that, which I think is great.
Yeah, and I have looked into this before, and there does not seem to be any kind of explanation for why this beverage is called a cabinet in Rhode Island. And it's this very small place that they use this word. But, Rhode Island
it's cabinet-sized, the whole state.
Yeah, I know. I like that they have their own word for this. I think that's...
Me too.
I think that's good.
Like, why would you take something frozen and put it in a cabinet or associate it with a cabinet, either of people or of the thing you have around your house?
No,
right.
Not true.
Right. It could be, and I think this is something that has been suggested, this idea that whatever piece of machinery that was used to make it was kind of shaped like a cabinet.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Instead of just being in a frother, there was something that, I don't know, froze things, maybe, something like that.
Right. Like a chest cabinet of freezer.
Now, if we're going to talk about regionalisms, we have to talk briefly about the Dictionary of American Regional English, which is this bonkers, fantastic resource. daredictionary.com. People can access the Dictionary of American Regional English. And it is this just really, really remarkable reference book that catalogs there are more than 1,800 different questions that were asked by these survey givers who were sent throughout the United States to collect regionalisms from people all over the contiguous, I think they only did the contiguous states. And they asked questions having to do with, farm animals or church dinners and all these different categories. So you'd be able to compare, like, what do you call a piece of furniture that you sit on that you can sit on, but that doesn't have a back or anything and it's low to the ground, like an ottoman or something.
Which was popular in the Ottoman Empire, I'm really sure.
I don't think so.
My grandmother used to call it a divan.
Oh, divan? Yeah.
Instead of a couch, but she didn't say divan. She said divan.
Divan.
In the parlor.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So here are some of the examples of the survey questions. They would say a built-in space in a room for hanging clothes, a piece of furniture in which you lay clothes flat, section in a piece of furniture that you pull in and out like a drawer.
A drawer.
Piece of furniture with a flat top for keeping tablecloths, dishes, and such. That's in the category of furniture. Of course, they're asking these questions. The survey questions started in maybe 1968. And they maybe took, more than 10 years to ask all the questions. And then they had to compile everything. So the first volume of DARE was just letters A through C. I mean, there was like a maybe 30-year gap between when the first volume came out and when the last volume came out. Published through the University of Wisconsin at Madison.
By the time the last one came out, did they have to do revisions on the first one? Because as we constantly say on this show, for your segment, language is constantly changing, and therefore the regionalisms are also kind of shifting.
Well, I'm sure that they all wanted to, but the other thing that is maybe constantly relevant is that the language may be constantly changing, but financing the documentation of its change is also a constant struggle. So yeah, they could not go back and start the survey over. It was a documentation of kind of this little window of time. I mean, many of these regionalisms are still in use.
I'm poking around on the website here. It does look like you need to have a subscription to see some of the really good stuff, but the one that I'm looking at through...
I bet you can get there through JSTOR.
I don't know what that is, but...
Or through your public library. Lots of public libraries will have subscriptions to DARE also.
Oh, nice. But one of the things that's in Massachusetts that's a regionalism is called two-toilet Irish, which I figured I knew what it would mean, and I've looked at it on another website, and I'm correct. A slang term used to describe Irish Americans who successfully moved into the middle or upper class. Lace curtain and shanty Irish are the other opposite ones. So yeah, this is the kind of fun you can have with the DARE dictionary. Dare to keep kids off the English language.
It's also the fun way that we can describe our word nerd as coming from the Hughes side of Pennsylvania as opposed to the John and Wooder side of Pennsylvania.
Oh, no, my side is the Yins side.
Oh, yeah. Yins. Use is
my
something
apologies.
My dad, a regionalism that
yins.
my dad would have continues to say. Use guys. Which I think is
guys,
great. I've
yeah.
incorporated that. It works perfectly.
Yeah, Pittsburghers actually will sometimes refer to themselves as Yinsers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we're interested in hearing some of your regionalisms, listener, or if you have questions about regionalisms or where they all come from, maybe we can help you find that out. But we appreciate you bringing some of these fun regionalisms and their origins to us, word nerd Emily Brewster.
Even if you're just letting us know where you fall on the Coke Pop soda divide.
Oh, yeah. Soda.
It's soda.
My grandmother called it tonic. It was all tonic.
Oh, wow.
And in Pittsburgh, it's definitely pop.
Yeah.
You're my soda pop, my little soda.
And thanks to listener Elsa Kahlo, who wrote us immediately saying that their cousin says garage, which is... Knowing that I am from Boston and giving me that to say was very difficult, and I hope you had fun with me saying that too. As much as you do trying to get your cousin to say that as often as possible, I would as well. And if you've got other regionalisms you want to share with us, email us at thefab413@nepm.org. We'd love, love, love to see them. Live Music Friday is on the way with the bittersweet guitarmonies of Sophia St. Helen with Michael Lesko, who will play in Northampton on May 23rd. But first, let's celebrate more regionalism with Kate Norris of Division Wines and a taste of the Willamette Valley at Provisions. It's hard for me to say Willamette, too, it turns out. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Somebody told me the other day that the asparagus here in the valley tastes better from the east side of the river than the west side of the river. Do you guys have thoughts on that?
The answer is, when we did the taste test in the NEPM offices, what won was the west. Plainfield won. At least according to the taste buds of the people in the NEPM headquarters, that's absolute gobblegosh. Okay. But it's like wine. Like, your tastes are your own. Like, my friends who grew up in Hadley have their farms that they go to, and those are the farms that they hit. And they think that they're the sweetest, and everybody's got their opinion on it. The importance is that you're drinking the local asparagus. Yes.
The story that I read was that there was a different strain of asparagus that suffered some blight in the 60s or 70s. But then they had to re-engineer it. So I often think that if I were granted many wishes by a genie, one of them would be to go back in time to taste the original clone Hadley asparagus.
I love that wish. We've got a chaos Thunderdome right now where instead of 2 wines enter, 1 wine leaves. 2 or maybe 3 organizations enter and 1 wine leaves, because we're gonna battle it out. We're gonna wine battle it out. We're at Provisions, Northampton. We've got the Provisions folks, the NEPM radio folks, and the winemaking folks. We're gonna all go around and self-identify. Monty Belmonte, NEPM.
Khalees Smith, NEPM.
Ronnie Williams, NEPM.
Bruce McCamus, Provisions.
Benson Hyde, Provisions.
Kate Norris, I Make Wine.
Adam English, Oz Wine Company.
Now we're ready to throw down.
3 teams enter, all drink wine.
What exactly are we competing against? Is it like my wine versus my wine?
Yes.
Because that sounds great.
It would usually be that, and if you want it to be that, it can be that.
I mean, I'm already winning, so let's do it.
Kate, you're the winemaker, Division Winemaking Company, here at the counter at Provisions.
Yeah, so I grew up in a wine-producing village in the Loire Volcanique, 300 people.
So you're not Chuck Norris's daughter?
niece.
Are you really? No. I got so excited for one half of a second right there.
Well, it's really funny. I am so old now that when I check into a hotel and they're like, last name Mike Norris, like Chuck, the people that are checking me in are so young that they have no idea what I'm talking about.
Oh my God.
It's pretty amazing.
Chuck Norris doesn't churn butter. He roundhouse kicks the cows, and the butter comes straight out.
Rest in peace, Chuck Norris. I actually have my Bruce Lee sneakers on right now. Chuck Norris's buddy.
I mean, he wasn't the best, but whatever. He's a Norris, so I'll take it. I make wine in Oregon. I make the wines I love to drink with my business partner, Tom. Based on our time living and making wine in France, I celebrate not only the wines of the Willamette Valley, which are very famous, but the wines of the Pacific Northwest. So I love diversity, I love ingenuity, I love acidity, and I love energy. But what's really fun is Provisions actually just picked all Willamette Valley wines today, so it's a Willamette Valley throwdown.
Willamette Valley is one of my favorite wine regions in the U.S. of A.
Same.
Yeah. And I often talk poorly about American wines. Why is this something Oz wants to be a part of there, Adam?
Because Oz focuses on carrying wines of place, and these wines are very expressive of place.
But Oz isn't even a real place.
It is.
Oz is
Follow the yellow brick road.
Oz is the country code for Australia. It started as an importing company of just Australian wines. We haven't carried any Australian wines in many years now because they've all been displaced by Kate's Wines.
I know, my fault. Sorry.
What was the appeal of Division Wine to bring it into Provisions, Bruce?
They're good.
Enough said.
End of show.
What are some similar things that you've noticed between your winemaking time in the Loire and Willamette Valley?
Damn it, Willamette, just so you know, Willamette. I love cool climate grapes. I love the transference of minerality, which is really interesting because people say that you can't get minerals into wine, but there's something about what grapes are planted on. I love...
And by that you mean like there has been recent scientific evidence saying that all of the stuff that we usually talk about it gets planted on seashells
It's not true.
is not true. But we believe it to be true, just like Oz.
Do we drop the mic now? Is it over
does
again?
impart texture and flavor, and texture and flavor are things that we associate with mineral components. So it is a real thing. It's just more of a texture flavor, not a scientific.
It's not quantifiable.
Not quantifiable.
And then I think that that's okay because life isn't quantifiable, right? Sometimes about magic too. I also made wine in the Beaujolais, and Gamay planted on all those different Cru Beaujolais soils transfer what they're grown on into the bottle. Like there wouldn't be those crus unless each of those spots were incredibly distinct.
Yeah.
So whether or not we can scientifically prove it, if we can taste it, it's real.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys have your first wine in the glass. Kate, can you please introduce?
Yes. So, Chardonnay, this is my flagship cuvee of Chardonnay. Chardonnay is having a giant moment in the Willamette Valley. It is, to quote Ben Castile from Bethel Heights, the most exciting thing that's going on in the Willamette Valley right now. It rides the line of the West Coast opulence and the French tension that we know historically, and it is an honor to make Chardonnay from 3 beautiful sites that are blended into this wine. This is barrel fermented with a little bit of neutral oak, and it tastes like the last day of summer in the Willamette Valley for me. Pear and a little bit of chamomile. It tastes like wild carrot and a little bit of wheat. It tastes like I'm ready to pick, and I love being able to bottle that. It's really yummy to make Chardonnay that people can fall in love with again in the United States.
Chardonnay's had a bad rap.
Because we've had some terrible experiences.
I also say that it's like your least favorite aunt.
She comes to dinner, she says some things, and you're like, maybe next time we give her a couple of months before we let her back in the house.
Exactly.
Benson, you know what this smells like to me? Shadow blossom.
Yes, the cheese.
Nirvani Williams, NEPM Zone. I'm going to call you our wine genou. Our,
Wine genou.
our young up-and-coming wine snob, our wine genou. What's your take on this? Your set.
I haven't been doing this for a very long time.
Okay, thumbs up or thumbs down. Don't worry, you're fine.
You don't even have to do thumbs up or thumbs down. Just tell us what you think.
I loved everything that you were saying, describing the wine, but I'm also, and please let me know if this is wrong.
No,
There's no wrong.
But you know what I mean.
Secretly there is.
Secretly there is. I'm getting some meat, some beef. Is anybody...
Savory notes.
Savory notes.
Keep calling it beef, though.
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
He's just really excited because now he gets to put Sam Elliott in here again.
Beef stroganoff, beef bourguignon.
I knew he was going to do that. No, but like something savory, something salty, just in the back of the throat. Like,
I love that you're saying this because Tom and my wines are always savory and salty. And savoriness and saltiness are something I seek. And I love that you know, quote unquote, nothing, as you say. Of course you know something. You know what you taste and you know what you feel. And those are two of the most important things about my wine to me, and you picked them right out.
Okay, we're at Provisions Northampton with winemaker Kate Norris of Division Winemaking Company, based in Portland.
On Southeast Division Street, which is where the name comes from.
And Adam, you were touting Kate's accolades here, basically saying that they created a whole urban wine movement.
That's right, and let me speak for you here.
I helped.
Sometimes it's good to have a hype person.
They were one of the primary trailblazers of creating what is now a very vibrant and robust urban wine scene in Portland, Oregon. So Kate and Tom founded the Southeast Wine Collective on Southeast Division Street, which was like an co-op incubator for a bunch of different small producers who were just starting out. They were one of the first of maybe 4, and now Kate's saying there's over 20 in Portland. So because of their proximity to not just the Willamette Valley, but also excellent fruit that they're sourcing from Washington State and the Columbia Valley too, just a really important piece of what has kind of transitioned Oregon wine industry into this cool urban scene.
Speaking of streets, Adam from Oz, you live in Montague. What's your position on the new library in Montague?
No, you ain't got to do.
Yeah. I'm voting yes for the library. I think considering that the current library is not up to any ADA compliance and is therefore having to close down many of its features for the community, it would be foolish not to vote yes. They say that it's only going to cost the average homeowner about $160 per year in extra taxes for books, which enrich all of us.
But I see all these signs that say it's going to cost us $32 million as a taxpayer in Montague. I don't want to pay $32 million for a new library.
But the state actually gave a grant to the town of Montague that covers just about half of that.
No!
That's correct.
You heard it here first.
Wow, I wonder what I should do on June 24th in the town of Montague. Okay, what's our next wine we're going to taste with Kate Norris from Division?
Our previously featured. This is Gamay, and Gamay is the love of my life.
I'm so glad I didn't trash Gamay when you were talking about growing Gamay in Beaujolais.
You're more than welcome to trash it because Gamay, people are allowed their opinions, and Gamay has had an incredible arc, an incredible story. It has gone up and it's gone down, but at the end of the day, it is just delicious, and that is what comes through, and that's what wins in the end.
Why is that? Why you love Gamay?
I do. I grew up with Gamay in the glass when I was really young with my parents. It brings me such joy. It goes with everything. It is a pleasure to grow. It is a pleasure to make, and it is a pleasure to have told its story in America and to connect what happened in France with what's happening here. Tom and I make 7 Gamays each year. I mean, a lot. And this is one of my favorites. This is all Willamette Valley, 3 vineyard blend also. And hey, you want to try some?
Let's taste it. Yeah.
Gamay got kicked out of Burgundy as a red grape of Burgundy.
For being too cool.
Well, there's an argument. You have an argument there. My first experience with Gamay was bad Beaujolais Nouveau, which tastes like fruity bubblegum drink.
Yeah, no, I would say that there is the Cru Beaujolais, which is really, really an important part of the history of Gamay, but also there was this movement with Beaujolais Nouveau that is actually really historical. It's a celebration of being done with harvest. It's a celebration of being able to taste what you have completed immediately after making it. It is a farmer's celebration that got honestly probably co-opted by a bunch of people that didn't know what they were talking about, and they managed to turn people that loved wine against wine. That's not good. I think it also really hurt the Beaujolais region, and when I worked there, I watched a lot of vineyards lying fallow because of sort of this negative connotation. I make a Nouveau in order to really capture that celebration again and say it's okay to love what you've done and love fresh young wine. And there's nothing not to love about Gamay. It is like your cooler, younger sister, right?
Gamay is like Nirvana Williams. My cooler, younger sister? Wine Genou?
Wine Genou. We have 3 vineyards in here, 3 soil types, actually. We have some marine sedimentary soils. We also have a fair amount of volcanic soil. And so it throws this beautiful blood orange sanguine note. Gamay also loves to suck in what's grown around it, and so this like pine sappiness, a little like pepper snap, makes me salivate. And I want wines to make me salivate, and Gamay does it every time.
The 3 soils explains what I got in glass versus like what I got on nose. It's sweet. It's like raspberry candy on the nose, and then it was so savory and dry in the glass.
Volcanic soil is wild to have as a descriptor. That's the sickest thing ever to even try to grow something in.
Well, part of what makes the Willamette Valley so unique and so special, and what Kate and Tom are doing in their different sourcings of vineyards, is that these are prehistoric soil compositions caused from the Missoula floods, which at the end of the last ice age, there was a gigantic lake in where Missoula, Montana is now. The lower lying areas are all these sedimentary soils that came down with the Missoula floods, and then all the higher elevations, or even in some cases just slightly higher, are the volcanic soils from the growth of the coastal and Cascade Mountain range.
That's such a beautiful, sick story, and you get that all in a glass.
Well, taste it. Wine is messages in bottle, it's history in bottle. So imagine those moments of that like dam of water just breaking, right? Those ice, the ice just melting all over. And then imagine the first people that decided to plant Pinot Noir in the Willamette Valley. Imagine the first person that decided to plant Gamay in the Willamette Valley. 1988, Myron Redford, Seven Springs Vineyard. He convinced someone to plant Gamay, and they're like, but that was exiled from Burgundy. Like, why would we do that? And then I get to come in and walk into the first vineyard I worked at in 2010 and be like, dude, that's Gamay. What's that doing here? And I get to harken back to the stories of my youth and then move those stories forward in bottle to this very moment where we get to tell more stories in bottles, which is my favorite thing about wine.
Message in a bottle.
So is this Willamette Valley Cru Gamay?
I mean...
Tastes like it.
Yeah, we need to come up with a name for it.
You said it first? I mean, I don't know.
What separates Gamay in Beaujolais for me and the sort of overexpressive strawberry bubblegum thing is when it comes to Cru Beaujolais, and it does feel like it's got a little more of the tobacco tar, those rich, savory, like I'm almost smoking this glass of wine element, and that has this in Willamette. And again, Willamette, to me, feels like our Burgundy. You've proven that your Chardonnay is great from there. Pinot Noir from there is spectacular, and now Gamay from there is spectacular as well.
Yeah. Gamay is the fastest planting grape variety in Oregon currently by percentage, and to have it as like our prince to Pinot makes me so proud. And it also is important because we don't need monoculture, right? Like diversity is key in life.
Kate Norris, winemaker or poet, maybe? Philosopher?
I can't do math, but I can do words.
Do we want to do more, or are you running out of time?
math? What's the next Pinot that we have?
2 Pinots. If I did make Pinot Noir, they would take my Oregon card away from me. It would be gone. So I have 2 Pinots here, and it's really fun to present them back to back. Pinot Noir 1, meaning number 1, is my main cuvee. It is my flagship. It is the one I've made since 2010. It is my girl. It is my 5 favorite vineyards in the Willamette Valley. We have an incredible view into Pinot Noir as like a beautiful aggregate. Fast forward a little bit, these vineyards are expensive to farm. Farming is expensive, people. Wine is expensive, and rightly so. These vineyards are worth their weight in gold and more. And what started off as a $25 bottle of wine for me has increased to over $35. But it's only because we need to pay people a living wage. We need to be able to support our farming systems. And this is just how much it costs to make really good wine from a really good spot. I love this wine. It is mostly traditional ferment, a little bit of carbonic fermentation sprinkled on top. That carbonic fermentation gives it a little pop, a little zow, I always call it.
Some Batman noises.
Exactly. Robin. And a little bit of new oak. This does 10 months in barrel, and then I bring it together in cement, and I love doing an assemblage in cement. It brings shoulder softening to a wine, texture, calmness, ready for bottling. Pinot Noir for me, I'm so proud of each year. Pinot Noir is named 1. It's my main cuvee of each year, and I worked in I had a number of different jobs when Tom and I were first making wine, and when we went to go and bottle our first vintage in 2010, I think it was like 10 o'clock at night, and we finally figured out like the 2 main blends that we're going to do. One was our flagship, and the second was our high end. And he looked at me and he's like, "What are we going to call them?" I'm like, "Dude, right now, like I'm so tired. Decision overload." And I said, a duh. which is 1 and 2. And then I walked out of the room, apparently. And I don't even remember that I was being such a bitch. But it's Pinot Noir Alp, meaning number 1. It means our main cuvee of the year.
It smells like walking in a forest. And the concrete note totally makes sense when you say it because it's got this neat minerality to the end of it. It's real cool.
Yeah. Pinot Noir has great tannins. Dusty bricks that I like from all French Pinot Noir. Thoughts, wine Genou, Nirvani Williams?
It's delicious. It's lovely. I feel like this is a true throwdown because I'm like getting sucked into the storytelling, and also the taste is so delicious. It's full bodied. I don't know if this is going to be bad to say, but it tastes like a Cabernet to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no wrong answers.
It's both big and delicate at the same time. I think that's part of what you're saying.
Way to go, Benson. Way to bail me out from my wrong answer noise.
We say power and grace.
Bruce, complexity of flavors, and on all your wines that we've tasted, a really satisfying mouthfeel and grip.
So I love that you say that because in Oregon, we are not at a lack for beautiful sunshine in the summer times. So our wines aren't going to be as delicate as some of the other cooler climate places. And what I've learned as a person that's made wine in different places is to celebrate what we are offered. In Oregon, we are offered younger soil, and we are offered a little bit more sunshine. So my job is to mitigate that beautiful richness, but also celebrate it. These are cool climate wines without being insipid. People fight for generosity in their fruit. Like, they hope that they can get ripe enough.
Burgundy strives for it every year.
Every year. And we don't have to add new oak to get it. And I've learned to really accept that my job is to celebrate a little bit more generosity. We're not California generous. We're Oregon generous.
Thank God.
Thank the gods. Multiple gods.
It's a good reminder of like how much wine is a farm product. Like you can't get this without like agriculture and the things that like get grown and like the ups and downs that it encompasses.
I had a lovely group of humans here that had just graduated this week. And they were like, I don't know anything about wine. And the question was, how much is it farming and how much of it is you? And I'm like, what an amazing first question. I was like, wow. I was like, well, I can't do anything without Mother Nature. But I do have to like look at it. And I said earlier, your gentle imprint and your interpretation. So it's all her and some me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And is it true also that as Oregon gets warmer, that your selection of sites becomes even more important? Because if we're looking at places further south in the valley or more valley floor sites, we are seeing places that are getting maybe overripe.
So this is a really interesting question. We talked about it yesterday when I was in Boston. My job as a winemaker is to navigate climate. That's what I do. Each year is different, and there's different climate changes, and there's different climate aspects, and there's different trends. And yes, it's managing to not only choose vineyards or work with vineyards that have the right aspect to respect the style of wine that you make, but also to work with the different grape varieties that can amplify your style, right? And my style is electricity. That's why I love Pinot, but I love Gamay. And Gamay has natural electricity, and it's being able to respect and move forward. Farming is working with climate change and working with climate. That's like my marching orders each year, right? Like, gotta do it.
One more wine with Kate Norris, the winemaker of Division Winemaking Company, based in Portland, here at Provisions in Northampton. We've got 3 teams. The Benson Bruce Provisions team. We've got the Kate and Adam Oz team. Oz presenting Kate's wines here in the good old Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And NEPM team, Khalees, me, and Nirvani.
Their team wins. They brought the wine. They make the wine.
Yeah. Maybe we should all figure out if we were to buy a bottle together as a team tonight, which one it would be.
So,
what a pretty label.
Thank you so much. Well, so we eat with our eyes first, right? And so I love label design. I really think that what's in the bottle needs to be as great as what's on the bottle, because I get invited into your store and I get invited to someone's home based on what I look like and what I taste like. But let's be honest, I think a lot of people, if they don't have an opportunity to taste something, or like, this looks like me, this looks like something I respect. And so I try to make sure that what's on the bottle it looks as good as what's in the bottles too.
You know, part of our appreciation for wine is an aesthetic. And that's beyond just our flavor and taste preferences that also is our visual.
Yeah.
These things are not, they do not live in silos.
You can't always judge a wine by its cover, but sometimes you can.
Moving into this next wine, it is called Yama Pinot Noir. When I was talking about these beautiful vineyards that I was working with for Pinot Noir, I realized that entry level, grab and go, great Thursday price Pinot was no longer Pinot Noir unless I maybe changed the character of it to introduce some younger vines into it. So I decided with Tom instead to let Pinot Noir be the beauty that it is, but to start to create a entry-level priced Pinot Noir from the Willamette Valley that was organically farmed, transparently made, and that allowed people to vote with their dollars, because sometimes at this price point, it's looking a little corporate out there. I'm not gonna lie. I really believe in farming. I believe in stories and people and connections. And so Tom and I were like, let's make $25 Pinot Noir and Chardonnay from the Willamette Valley. It took a long time for this to come together through, honestly, a very tough period in wine. And believing that this would be relevant, and we have been really rewarded. People have responded to this wine like no other. It is a little more opulent, a little more rustic, a little more pow.
Eucalyptus.
Oh, I love that.
I'm like, what is this mentholy? Like, oh, it's that. That's the thing.
The halls of medicine. Mentholyptus.
But not in a bad way. It's just sort of like this, sort of woody clarity.
Unta?
No, this
is Yama.
Yama. They decided not to go with
Yeah, it's mountain on the label. Yeah, it's all
Wait,
Yama.
Yama is the mountain?
Mountain
in Japanese.
Oh, so why Japanese?
So this piece of art was created by Camille Shute in Portland, and it's called Yama.
Huh?
And you can see Mount Jefferson and Mount Hood from the vineyards that we farm. So you can see those mountains from where this Pinot is grown.
Speaking of wines of place.
Okay. The three teams are going to palaver.
Holy smokes.
You gotta,
this is gonna be
you gotta pick a wine to come home with tonight and tonight only.
Tonight and tonight only?
Not like your forever wine and you're not buying 10 cases of this wine.
One-night stand wine?
Yes, one night stand wine. We got tonight. Who needs tomorrow?
That's not why I'm in it, but I'm in it to win it.
What bottle are you Bob Segering to see?
We got tonight, babe.
I'm a huge Bob Seger fan, so this is great.
Maybe somebody's got a silver bullet.
What are you taking down Main Street?
All right.
Monty, what do you think of this one?
All right, teams, go to your neutral corners. We'll only hear the ruminations of Team NEPM with Khalees Smith, me, and Nirvani Williams. Nirvani Williams, who just won a major award. Tell us about your award.
Oh no! I won an award from the Religion News Association for a religion story that I did about a family that was living in Afghanistan, and they reunited against all odds of what's going on in immigration.
Now we got Phil Collins in here. Sorry, that's the Gen X song.
So I know it. All right. I'm your younger sister, remember? But no, yeah, and it was recognized, and I feel really honored, and it's kind of crazy.
The irony that between the two of us.
Congratulations. Okay, which wines do you want to bring home? I'll just go with whatever you two say.
Oh no, wait, what did you say?
Well, I didn't say anything yet, but I kind of like the Gamay.
I'm actually leaning towards the Gamay too. Yeah. It's got.
You didn't like it?
I did not like it. I just generally don't like Gamay, but I did actually like that one a lot.
It's got this neat funk to it that I also really liked in the Chardonnay. But I'm feeling a little soft, maybe because of the butthurt of the government. And I love forest floor, just as a general note, especially when it happens on palate instead of just in nose. And I got tons of that from that. It was a really, really cool journey.
Beautiful journey. Yeah, I loved it, and I loved her story about it too. Well, what about you? I want to hear your
Doesn't matter
thoughts.
what I think. Is everybody ready? It wouldn't be fair to make the winemaker go first on this one with Team Oz and Team. No, let's the two of them. It's going to be Oz, the distributor, and the division winemaking with the winemaker Kate. No, you're not going first. Let's go Team Provisions first.
Let's start with Bruce.
I'm gonna go with the Gamay, but it's a tough call.
The problem is we are divided.
What? With this division wine?
We're completely divided here.
What was yours though?
I want to go home with the Chardonnay.
Okay.
Wow. And part of it is
voting
because
present.
I love Chardonnay and but also I think that as you were saying, people need to be introduced to Willamette Chardonnay because it is a very special category. It drinks differently than any of the other spots, and in many cases is some of my favorite Chardonnay at an incredible price point for what the quality is. So
okay. The division comes to the fruition in division winemaking with provisions.
That's addition.
All right.
Monty is also a poet, just so you know.
I didn't even know. Team NEPM, our vote is?
We also agreed with the Gamay. We thought it was delicious. And I loved your story about it too. It was just so delicious and interesting. I totally get the Chardonnay choice too. Gorgeous. But we wanted the Gamay.
Okay.
So
Team Oz Wine and Team Division Winemaking Company with winemaker Kate Norris, you have to vote on your own wines.
So I have a little rule when it comes to wine. So when Tom and I are blending our wines, we sit there for hours and hours figuring out which barrels go with what. And when we think we're really close, I look at him and I say, would you drink a whole bottle of this yourself? And if there's any hesitation, it means back to the drawing board. It means maybe there's a barrel that didn't belong. So I'm going to say that I would never not drink any of these wines. So I pick them all.
So the Gamay wins.
I'm glad you said it. Kate Norris, it's great to meet you. Thanks for spending so much time with us. We love talking to winemakers.
This is such a pleasure. It's so much fun. This is why I do this.
Adam from Oz and the folks from Provisions, thanks for having us again.
A pleasure. Thanks for coming by.
I know it's late.
Up next, Live Music Friday with Sophia St. Helen and Michael Lesko, who will take the Parlor Room stage together in Northampton this Sunday, May 23rd. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Time for another Local Hero Spotlight with Claire Morneau from CISA, the Local Hero folks. And this is going to be a Local Hero segment that has full disclosures up the wazoo about personal connections.
Hi, I'm Lisa.
And what's the name of this farm?
Growing a Bunch Farm in Ashfield.
We're in a barn with a bunch of wool in banana boxes.
It's fleece right now. It's not wool. It's not like wool yet.
What's the difference between fleece and wool?
Well, we call it fleece when it's just come off the sheep. So it's fleece or it's wool right now in this state in the banana boxes. But later it will be transformed into yarn.
Which is also still wool.
Yes. It is still wool. And after that, it goes into sweaters, hats, socks, shawls.
Tell us what you do here at this farm.
Well, what I do here at this small farm / homestead, my tagline has always been growing a bunch of children, veggies, flowers, and wool.
This is where the full disclosure comes in. I know all of your children very well. You are also a grandma now.
I am.
Yes. And I've met your grandbaby as well. Yes. Our kids have homeschooled together. Talk about the homesteading aspect of it.
Well, the homesteading was my reaction to my previous New York City life. When I moved here, first to Conway and then eventually to Ashfield, I just wanted out of the city. I was done with that environment. I had 3 little kids at the time, and we got chickens 3 days after we moved. And it's, we never looked back. So about a year after we started with the gateway animal of chickens, we moved right on to sheep. And we've had as many as 8 sheep at our farm, so we're not huge. But we love our sheep. And now we're down to just our 5 original sheep that we started with. They're Shetlands, and they make beautiful wool and fleece. And so we shear them every year, or rather I have them shorn. And a few years ago, I started to make some yarn from our own sheep wool. But during COVID, I discovered I love what I'm doing. I love knitting. It's such good, restorative, relaxing. My children have these beautiful garments that are domestic and local and organic. And so I started looking around for more wool from other local farms. And that's where I found Brad from Four Blessings Farm in Leverett, Mass. He has a beautiful flock of sheep there. He's a weaver, and he was no longer using his wool to weave. And so I've been buying his wool since actually I went back to the 2019 fleeces that he was storing. And I've been buying it every year. He does about 17 or 18 lambs, and then he does about 20 full-grown sheep in the spring. And so I've got his lamb's wool and his full-grown sheep wool here, and soon I'm about to start skirting it.
What does skirting it mean?
Well, I can show you that.
Let's go do it.
Yardage-wise,
right.
How much are you getting for each one of your sheep?
Right, okay. So really rough math would be if my sheep have a fleece that is about 7 pounds. After skirting and washing at the mill, it might only weigh 5 pounds. And roughly 5 pounds of the small 2-ounce skeins that I make would make 8 skeins per pound, so 40. So that's a sweater's quantity by far. I mean, it's actually a couple sweaters and a couple hats.
That's
yeah,
sweaters.
you know, yeah. So even my small flock makes a good amount of wool, but when you add in Brad's 40 fleeces, and I also buy from Lonnie York at York Farm in Shelburne. I buy from a couple of shearers, a local farm down the hill in Ashfield. Now I found some wool in Coleraine Heath up there. So I get it from wherever I can, as long as it's nice enough that I can make it into a nice yarn. That's what I do with it. That's my first choice. I also make some products from the waste wool. So when we do the skirting, the leftovers, the coarse wool can be made into things like sponges, dishcloths, felt for crafting. And I also make something that I call woolly fill, which if you're a crafter and you know polyfill, then this is the wool local New England alternative to that. And then we also, I can show you this as well, we also make wool pellets. Now that's good for the wool that hasn't even been washed and has like super poopy, still has hay in there. It goes to the pelletizer that it lives in a barn in Shelburne at Peggy Hart's farm. And the way we got it, the members of Western Mass Fiber Shed worked together, particularly Peggy and Michelle, to get a grant from the larger Fiber Shed organization that's based out in California. We got some grant money and ordered this pelletizer. So now we can put our old poopy, hay-filled, dirty wool into the pelletizer. Out pops the little pellets that look like a chicken feed, and that's a good soil amendment. We've had it analyzed at UMass. It has a nice like high nitrogen content and other breakdown of good minerals.
And you just put it on your gardens and it just goes in, or does does it dissolve, or what does it do?
It does. So it dissolves slowly over time. They also help hold moisture. They deter pests like slugs if they're placed on the surface around the base of the plant. And they help to aerate like heavy clay soil.
So we are at Growing a Bunch Farm in Ashfield with Lisa Fortin and Claire Morneau from CISA, and we're standing in front of a large wood frame with some wire mesh in between it. This is where the skirting happens, I'm assuming?
It does, yes. So one by one, I dig into my fleeces that are either in
Sup, Willow?
contractor bags, paper bags, or in Brad's case, banana boxes.
It looks like you're pulling a whole bear, or
Well,
I guess in this case a
you wanna
sheep,
touch it?
out of a plastic bag.
This is the fleece of our Coco.
Fresh fleeces.
Coco Chanel is her name. Now, she's actually getting, all of my sheep are on the older side, but if you feel, this is still lovely fleece. And it goes into a yarn I call yearling. It was our first yarn. And this is something that when kids come to our summer workshops, we will show them the whole sheep to, say, sweater process. And we will start with the skirting, and we will pick out all of these little bits of hay.
Hey.
Yes. And then what we pick out is these little short bits. These are actually little bits of lanolin that are all stuck together with dirt.
What's lanolin?
Oh, lanolin is like the sebum from the sheep. It's wonderful.
What's sebum?
It's like the oily stuff. You don't want too much of it on your face, but on your hands.
I don't want any sebum on my face.
On your hands, the lanolin is quite nice.
For people who have dreadlocks or like natural hair, often lanolin is used as part of hair care components to keep moisture in your hair and in your locks.
Grab some.
Wait, of this?
This one hasn't been pure.
It needs to be pure. It needs to be washed and purified.
Oh, all right. Because it does smell very sheepy right now.
It does smell sheepy. I think it's wonderful. Yeah. But you can buy pure lanolin in the store, and it's wonderful, like on your lips or chapped, fingers or something like that. Yeah, it really is.
The years of breastfeeding with my wife alongside you and all your kids, lanolin came up an awful lot.
It's very healing, and it makes a nice barrier.
So this is a sheep's wool that has been shorn, but the sheep is still alive, right?
Oh, yes.
So how does this all stick together like this? Well, how come if you cut somebody's hair, it comes off in big clumps? It doesn't stick together in one giant piece.
But it can. It really
I guess
depends.
if it's kind of like it's dreadlocked wool, right?
Well, it's not, because it comes apart very easily. It's just held together by the crimp, I think, in the lanolin. Yep, it's just clinging to itself. But it's so pretty. We have white as well. And we have this beautiful dark fleece.
Ooh,
I mean, that's lovely.
I love that.
Marveling at how long the hair is.
Yes.
Which makes part of what makes Shetland so fun to knit with. All of that softness that you feel now stays after it's been combed, after it's been like milled, and it's so fun to work with.
Yep, and it gives it a nice drapey quality, the fact that it's longer, as opposed to shorter staples, which are very lofty and puffy and kind of like bloom.
You have all of these potential products you can make from wool like this. What are you actually doing yourself by hand? What are you doing in partnership with other businesses?
Right. A lot of times people say, oh, you spin all that wool, when they see me at a market and I've got hundreds, if not 1,000 skeins behind me. Yeah. I couldn't possibly hand spin. And I have great respect for hand spinners. I love hand spun fibers and yarns. But it's just, I wanted to make more. I wanted to be a little bit bigger so that people can have an actual real product in larger quantity that's start to finish made in New England. I should include New York because one of the mills I use is over the line in New York State. And hand spun is wonderful, but I can't make that much quantity. So I wanted to take this local resource that really was, I think, being underused. I don't just make 1 or 2 yarns, but from each of the farms I work with and each of the batches of wool I get, they're all very different. I make very different yarns, from very skinny yarns called fingering weight that you can use for socks, or lightweight tops for the more like summer or something. Actually, like what I'm wearing is lighter.
You're wearing a tank top, like a wool knit tank top.
Yes, it has bees on it.
Oh, nice.
I love it.
We just visited the bees last week.
Knitted into it with beads, yes.
Bees and beads? Did you knit that and put the beads
I
in
did.
it? Yeah.
It's not my design. You can find those online. Thousands and thousands, hundreds and thousands of online patterns. Yeah, so anyway, I go to 5 different mills, and they each make very different yarns, and so people can make themselves and their family and members all sorts of different products from our yarn.
Can you talk about the mills a little bit? Because I feel like mills for fiber, or for like people who are growing sheep and like alpacas, other things for like fiber and fiber crafts, mills are one of those bottlenecks that ends up happening, much like processing for meat animals. And I don't think that people necessarily realize how much of a bottleneck it is to try and get your fibers processed in this area.
That is true, and that's one of the benefits of using multiple mills. So I do use Bartlett in Harmony, Maine. They're one of the oldest mills in the country. They make a very hardy yarn. I think of it as like a vintage yarn, like you could do vintage 70s, 80s look sweaters and cardigans with color work. I use them. And of course, Green Mountain Spinnery, which is about an hour away in Putney, Vermont. I mean, they're wonderful, and they do a process called woolen spun. So their yarns are fluffy and lofty and warm. I use Battenkill Fiber Mill over the border in New York State in Greenwich. They make wonderful, I think of them as more thinner, delicate, lighter yarns because they're a worsted spinning mill. Worsted is more like your smart wool type of wool, although that's super
That seems like bested to me. Really. I think it shouldn't be called worsted. I mean, smart wool is good.
That's an old school term. That's not my term.
Smart wool is a better marketing thing than calling it. You want these worsted socks I've ever had?
You have fingering and then DK.
Also don't want to comment on that.
DK Sport and then worsted, heavy worsted, and then chunky, and then super chunky.
Mm-hmm. And then even a rug yarn.
Some pulp.
Yeah, and rug yarn.
Yep. So worsted can mean...
Throwing terms out there.
Worsted can mean either the style of spinning, where the yarn is combed very smoothly and all the fibers are combed until they're parallel to one another and then they're spun, or it can refer to the size of the yarn itself. So worsted is sort of a regular or average size, not too big, not too small.
So we're at Growing a Bunch Farm in Ashfield with Lisa Fortin and Claire Morneau from CISA. I see you've got a sheep barn over there. Is that where your naked sheep are because they have now been shorn?
And they're hot. Yeah, they're hot. They were shorn Sunday morning, so we're definitely going to go over and say hi, but they're going to be a little shy because they just got...
I'd be shy too if I were naked.
They got their hair cut. It's a gentle process for them, really, but they don't like it. It requires a stranger to come and grab them, and he sits them on their bottoms, because in that position, then they can't escape, and they sort of just relent and give up. It takes probably less than 5 minutes for each one to get shorn. At the same time, he'll take a good look at their hooves, which I can't always do, and he'll make sure they don't need to be trimmed and that they're looking good. You can compare it to your kids yearly doctor's appointment combined with a haircut.
Or like Enzo is the only one in the family who's brave enough to cut our cat's nails.
Oh, yeah.
Where the cats do not want that to happen. He just grabs them assertively and then cuts all their nails.
Exactly. And it's we know better, but they don't understand that. So
Can you talk about the difference between the wool you get from lambs and the wool you get from full-grown sheep?
yeah, so generally the wool you get from lambs is just going to be a little softer, just like a baby's skin is a little softer than an adult's skin texture. It also sometimes is a little bit fluffier, but it's very soft. And I do have a yarn that I make from just lamb's wool. I'll say because they're part of CISA, I get that wool from Leiden Glen. They have wonderful flock. They shear, when we're there, sometimes there's like maybe close to 200 sheep being shorn. There's usually 4 shearers there working the whole day. And I collect the softest lamb's wool I can find because I always wanted to work with that farm because Kristen Nicholas is a famous knitwear designer from back in the day. She's like the OG of...
She's like a rock star of knitting,
Yes,
and
she
she's
is.
from Leiden, yeah.
Exactly. And she's also an amazing artist and potter. Definitely look her up. But I wanted to have that connection to their farm. And when I talked to her, she said, well, we have meat sheep now and they're, there's coarser fiber. But then she got back in touch with me and said, but what about if we use the lamb's wool? I said, yes. And that goes into my yarn that I call Babe.
Sometimes you can get Leiden Glen lamb burgers at certain restaurants in the area too. Mwah, chef's kiss, and a big shout out to Kristen and Julia and all those folks there.
Can I mention one more mill?
Yeah.
Okay. I've also started working with the new mill in East Hampton. That's in Eastworks, Alchemy. Yep, and they've been wonderful. So I've done one batch there with Melinda, and I plan to do more.
Should we meet your naked sheep?
Yes. Okay, let me make sure the fence is off.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. Lisa, you did not grow up farming, but you did kind of grow up here.
I did. I grew up down in the valley in Chicopee, so pretty suburban. I didn't have any real exposure to farm life. Definitely dreamt of going to the big city, and I did that when I was about 20 and was there for 17 years. But once I started having kids and grew up a little bit, I knew I wanted to come back, be closer to my family, and have a little bit of a farm life for my kids. There's so much reward in it, I think, for kids growing up.
And now your kids are taking that on themselves as well, right?
A little bit. Depends which kid you mean.
Well, yeah, Clara, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clara, Zinnia is like my chicken extraordinaire lady now.
Coming out to say hi.
Yeah, hi girls. And Willow too enjoys a lot of aspects of this. And then I have my artist, punk rock.
She's fully goth, and I fully support it.
Yeah, well, that gets me back because that was me when I was that age. So.
And she'll be graduating this weekend.
Yeah, she is. Hi girls, someone's missing. We can go over the fence.
Okay. This is when we get to test our flexibility.
This is when I regret wearing a dress.
We'll avert our eyes, Claire. Do they wag their tails like dogs when they're happy?
When they're happy or when they poop.
Oh, well, I know that makes me happy. So what are your sheep names?
This is Coco Chanel right in the front.
Beautiful.
The black lady is Freya. The next lady came with the name Elizabeth, but I added on Elizabeth Taylor.
Nice.
And then Dora and Dana.
I guess I'm allergic to sheep.
How terrible
I
for
know.
you.
I don't think I am.
No, because you wore that nice purple sweater.
Well, speaking of which, it's in the car.
Oh, nice.
That is the other full disclosure. Khalees is wearing the March for the Food Bank shirt that has a PBS style logo on it. But when I said I wanted to dress up as Mr. Rogers for the Food Bank March last year, a bunch of local folks in the wool and the fabric community got together, including Swanson's Fabrics and Northampton Wools, to make me a Mr. Rogers sweater. And Lisa Fortin here at this farm is the one who dyed the wool for that sweater. And was your sheep's wool part of that?
No.
Okay, but I want to keep that mythology going. But you did dye the wool.
I did dye the wool. Yep, that wool came from a fancy gentleman farm in Rhode Island where the sheep were just...
That makes me like it even more. Fancy gentleman farm.
Yep, this is how it was described to me. I actually don't know where it came from exactly, but this is from the shearer. It was a lovely flock of merinos that were mostly used to keep the grass down and as sort of like lawn ornaments. I mean this in the best sense. I mean, what a wonderful way to trim your lawn.
Yeah.
Is anyone nearby growing merinos? Like, I didn't know that anyone was raising merinos here.
That's why, even though I'm based in Western Mass, when I found a shearer who said, I've got this merino that's not being used, do you want it? for a very good price, actually. I said, absolutely.
It's not being you.
Yes, I know. And then I don't have access to that anymore. So what you had was almost some of the last of that.
Merino wool is unbelievably soft to work with, and it's got unbelievable drape. It's shiny. It's fantastic. It's like the cashmere of wools.
Yeah. I would be wearing the sweater right now, and I will put it on for photo opportunities, but it's too hot to wear.
It is much too hot for that sweater.
When you are selling finished yarns and wools for people to knit with and work with, you do it under Bloom Woolen Yarns, right? But we are at Growing a Bunch Farm. So can you talk a little bit about your two businesses and how they interact?
Right. So Growing a Bunch was just the seed of what became Bloom Woolen Yarns, because it started with these sheep. But the other half of Growing a Bunch Farm is my summer programming that I do for kids. And so we have a couple programs each summer. We do a sewing workshop and a general fiber arts workshop. For fiber arts, they will learn or practice embroidery, knitting, crochet, weaving, spinning, and we will go through that sheep to shawl or sheep to sweater experience. They'll dye some wool, and we'll also do needle felting and wet felting are huge hits. And we go on pasture walks and we get them out and we do yard games. And so that's the fiber arts workshop. And then we also added on about 5 years ago a sewing workshop. My two older daughters, who are now a young mom and a graduating homeschooling senior this year, they started with me helping with the programs 9 years ago, but they at the same time were learning how to sew at a 4-H group in Shelburne with Lonnie York, who owns York Farm, whose wool I also turn into yarn. And they have become excellent sewists. And so we took their skills and my sort of more mediocre beginner sewing skills. And 'cause at this point, they can make corsets and quilts and costumes and all kinds of really elaborate things that I can't do. And we started the sewing workshop.
That's amazing. Are there still spots available for this summer?
Only probably about 2 spots in the sewing workshop. Yeah, the other is definitely full. And that's the make your own outfit in a week, or you can make a quilt for kids that just like to sew. You can make your Halloween costume, and historical garb has always been a big hit as well.
You also, tapping into your goth side, have taught my child how to make chainmail.
Oh yes, there's a lot of 10 to 14-year-olds in the Valley that are wearing chainmail bracelets. Those probably were taught by me and made by them.
Maybe we underestimate what kids are capable of when it comes to these sorts of skills. I'm curious if that's been your experience.
Oh yeah, they astound me. The projects they make are gorgeous and they work really hard and diligently. The fiber arts workshop, there'll be times where it's silent and all you hear is the needle felting. 10 kids needle felting, and then the sewing machines are going, and a lot of times I can't get them to stop for lunch. They're so committed and they're so into their project. So I really love it.
Why did you want to share those skills with other kids who weren't your own? Opening this up to a wider range of kids who will take those skills with them is an entirely different avenue.
Right, and that's the key. Hopefully they take the skills with them. There's so much value in learning knitting and sewing and mending, and so there's the joy in it. There's the restorative aspect of being able to sit down at the end of a hectic day and focus quietly. And when kids have handcraft tools in their hands, they do not have a phone in their hand. You know, the first things people ever made in history other than shelter was clothing. So this is an integral part of being a human. And then they have the understanding of where our clothing comes from, just like we want them to know where our food comes from. The next extension of that is, where does our clothing come from? Or I like to say, who grew your sweater? As you know, any seed that's planted in childhood, they could put it down for 10 years and then pick it back up at 25, and there you go. The seed has been planted.
That's how my knitting generally goes.
Yeah, I learned how to crochet when I was like 18, and I could probably do it again.
So I'm sure. Many half-finished projects in my basement.
And I like to know that I know who grew my sweater. Some fancy gentleman in Rhode Island, but it was dyed right here in Asheville by my friend Lisa.
I mean, it feels a little bit too on theme.
I can't wait to be a fancy gentleman farmer myself.
What other types of wool are you getting besides the Shetland and apparently not merino anymore? But like, not everybody's growing Shetlands.
I mean, I could show you.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps with
Yeah.
Yeah, we take
It helps us understand it better.
Yeah.
Bye, sheep.
We could step into my studio and then I can show you a little bit.
Sure.
more.
Sorry.
I didn't know you were a knitter. This is amazing.
Yeah. From like for the same reasons. Like my mom taught me
Nice.
really, really young, and so I've been knitting since I was like 5 or 6.
Oh, that's amazing.
So like off and on as
What
you
do you like to knit?
I like to knit hats because I can do a hat in a day, but I also like sweaters, which is why there's so many half-finished things. Like I always want sweaters, and I never finish sweaters for myself. I just finish sweaters for other people.
Aww.
So like my sisters have like a couple of piece, and like my dad has one, but like the sweaters I've made for me are all half-finished in the basement, like still on circulars.
Summer projects?
Well, depending on what I'm using.
Yeah, right. I know if it's too heavy.
Yeah.
That's why I like to make sometimes socks in the summertime. So here's a really
across your lap. Like it's not like
exactly. No Afghans at the beach.
And especially if you're using like magic loop for sweaters instead of using double pointeds, which is what I've moved to exclusively because I'm bad at double pointeds. Everything just slides right off and then I have to start over. It goes really quickly. It makes it so much easier to turn heels and make toes. It's so nice.
That's your free knitting lesson.
Yeah. So this is your dyeing studio. And mudroom. There's buckets of what is that dye and water
Yeah. So this is actually indigo rinse bucket, but I save it because there's valuable indigo that'll sink down to the bottom. This is my indigo vat. This is cochineal.
Cochineal is a little
It is
bug.
a little beetle.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Do you using the real beetle?
Oh yeah. I mean they're dead and they're imported. They're not like I'm not.
You don't go out in the woods and get them.
No, because they grow on agave.
So is it only natural dyes that you're using?
I also have an organic dye, which functions much like a traditional acid dye works, but it's got certified organic, and I use vinegar as the acid, so it's very safe. I'm dyeing in my kitchen still, and I have a couple of burners here, but mostly I'm in my kitchen, so it's got to be safe. One thing I can show you really easily is the difference between woolen spun yarns, which would be these guys, and this is what you want to wear in the winter. It's very warm. This is the yearling, so this is our sheep. Makes very different finished products. This is what I call like the hardiest. It's not like you're not going to make a tank top or a baby.
Feels a little rougher maybe.
You're gonna put it, it's for layering.
Yeah, warm. And then you can contrast it with this, which is the fingering weight yarn, which is very silky, and this solstice, which is also very soft and silky and can make lighter garments, and that's like baby soft. This one is the one spun from Alchemy Fiber Mill. It's fin wool, very soft and lofty. These here that are soft and sort of shiny and glowing, those are made from Romney sheep that have a Romney is so nice. It might be one of my favorites.
I mean, when you look back on it, totally.
Stop it.
Those were different times.
Here's like the last skein ever of that yarn that we made your sweater out of.
Oh, the merino wool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What is this? This fuzzy.
So that's not local, not domestic. I order them as a sample because that is a cross of Suri alpaca, which is a unique kind of alpaca, with some silk. And this was made in South America. But I ordered it because I have access to a whole bunch of Suri alpaca, and I want to make that kind of yarn. So I wanted to feel a couple different versions and think about how that might knit up and that kind of thing.
Where are you going to source your silk from?
You're really on it, yeah. So that would not be local. I would source it through our local mills, and it would be 20% silk. And I would contrast that to my other yarns by calling it Wanderlust. So it would be like a little special treat that you might add to your whole wardrobe of domestic and locally grown sweaters.
The irony to me, of course, being that like there are a lot of mulberry trees here. You can make silk from mulberry, and mulberry was brought in to feed bombyx moths.
Yeah.
In part. So like if somebody was like super enterprising.
I've always wondered if anyone's going to get back into that.
Yeah.
The dream of the 1890s is alive in Northampton.
Right. Well,
It's a Portlandia joke.
Yeah, everyone was knitting and sewing clothes for their children. People were wearing glasses all the time, like contact lenses had never been invented.
Wait, are we talking about the 1990s?
No. the 1890s.
The dream of the 90s is alive in Portland.
That is what's happening with, say, linen. I think maybe even hemp, but closer to being brought back would be flax and linen. So there's like some local people working on that. I know there's a lot of flax happening in Vermont, and I believe Pennsylvania. So, and of course out in California, but more and more. We've got to bring these things back. That's the best way to avoid tariffs. Yeah, the problem with all of these local fibers is that we don't have the infrastructure to spin them anymore, because I think it was between like say 90 and 2005 or something, we lost like 80-90% of our machinery was literally shipped overseas. I think a lot probably went to China, but I think a lot of that went to the Middle East as well. And so I think people gave up on those industries, off everything went, and then right on the tail of that we have this resurgence of people wanting and appreciating this local product, and now we're kind of like don't have the machinery for it. So every time a new mill opens, it's one step in the right direction. But that is why you brought up the bottleneck at the mills. That's why I'm waiting a year for my yarn to be spun and come back to me.
Talk about your relationship with the fiber shed and what that's allowed for you to do, like with this business and other avenues that you might not have considered without their help.
Yeah, so Fiber Shed is doing great things by bringing awareness to all the fibers, but they do focus on wool. They have made cloth, which is extremely valuable, because if you're going to make clothing, you need cloth, not just yarn. And so Peggy Hart is weaving cloth and blankets. I have worked with them. I would like to work with them more. I am sort of loosely one of the organizational members, but I don't have the time to put in right now. Ironically, because, well, half the time it's my kids and the family and that whole thing. And then my business is really doing great and busy. And so I can't really put in the hours to spend as much time on that. But, you know, there's more years of my life that I can devote to that.
Is this chainmail over here?
Told ya.
Not strictly related to wool, but
this is my mannequin usually is wearing this. That was part of my previous
And that's
life.
how you keep the peasants safe when the raiders come.
Yeah, that's a nice look.
It's a beautiful dress with now a chainmail bra on it.
A handmade vintage indigo dyed dress with golden chainmail.
Back out to the barn.
You might notice that the barn does not look like a nice place to have a bunch of kids crafting. So my barn has pretty much 3 phases. Fall and winter, it's filled with 3-quart of firewood there and about 120 bales of hay on this side and up in the loft. Once the wood is gone, it's spring. I start collecting all my wool. I've probably got about 30, maybe 50 fleeces in here right now that I'll be skirting and driving off to the mills. And after that's gone, it's a complete transformation. All the large doors are opened, it's airy, it's cleaned up, it's no longer dangerous, and all the craft goodies come out.
Where does this battery go?
That's the electric fence.
I know, but when the kids are in here crafting, does it stay there?
So it does, but it's not turned on.
Great.
What happens if I touch these 2 things?
No, stop.
You get electrocuted. Ask me how I know. No. The sheep fence, the sheep are trained well enough to the fence that when kids are here working and running around, then I just turn it off and it's fine.
Our focus has largely been on the farm, but I'm curious where people can find your yarn.
So the yarn is at bloomwoolanyarns.com, and then the kids programming is at growingabunchfarm.com. Thanks.
And then are you at farmers markets or anything else like that?
I don't do farmers markets. I do fiber festivals, and
there's one coming up soon, right?
Yes. So we have Mass Sheep and Wool 50th year, and sadly the last one. It's like the end of an era.
Wow.
I know. So that's going to be this upcoming weekend at the Cummington Fairgrounds.
And this is the last one.
It is the last one. So
wow.
come and support.
We talked to them about it last year.
Or the year before. I don't remember, but was it? Yeah.
I think it's been maybe brewing. I don't know if there's any hope. There's a couple murmurs, people who are saying, I don't know, is it too late? Can we save it? I don't know.
But it's another thing where the older people who are raising sheep for wool started this in the 50s, late 60s, and they are too old to keep organizing this every year, and there hasn't been anyone to come up behind them and really take it over.
Maybe Mass Sheep and Wool should team up with Hampshire College and save each other.
That feels weird.
I don't know how that will work.
Are you at the New England one at the Big E in November?
I am, and that one is amazing. So much fun because it's got so much fiber and it's got the animals.
I have re-entered with the merino wool sweater from the fancy gentleman wool that was dyed by Lisa.
What was this dyed with?
Because it's a beautiful kind of lavender, almost purple.
I dyed it with the GOTS certified organic dye. Yeah.
Was Mr. Rogers famous for purple?
No, he had all sorts of different colors. My wife loves purple, so I wanted a purple one. I also love purple. But what Mr. Rogers was famous for that not everybody knows is, do you know what I'm about to say?
That his mother knitted his sweaters.
That every one of the sweaters he wore in his show for all those years was knit by his own mom.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So my moms of all of the community of Western Mass, and turns out some fancy gentlemen from Rhode Island, my daddy from Rhode Island, teamed up.
Your daddy from Rhode Island?
Teamed up to make this Mr. Rogers sweater for me. Wow. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Just when you thought Mr. Rogers couldn't be more wholesome.
I know.
It's like, no, his mom knit his sweaters.
Here I am making daddy jokes about it.
Those sweaters, she's not using anything that's heavier than worsted weight at most.
No, she doesn't. In fact, this is worsted, but a lot of them are smaller. But of course, time was of the essence, you know, to make the sweater.
Well, I think it's bested. And you can even actually, out of the CW Mars library system, get a book that has all of the different patterns for the Mr. Rogers sweaters if you want to knit one yourself.
Wow. I'm learning so much.
And they have zippers.
Yeah.
She liked to use zippers and not buttons.
Let's make the most of this. Oh, hold on. Hold on to the bottom of the sweater so I can do it. Beautiful day. That was more teamwork. Okay, I'm taking this off now because it's wicked hot. Well, thanks for showing us around the farm.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
And even though we didn't get to talk about it with Lisa Fortin there, Lisa Fortin grows a lot of the plants that she uses to dye the wool for Bloomin' Woolens, indigo, marigold, dahlias, and cosmos, and also gets onion skins for dyeing from Long River Produce Market in Deerfield, which is wicked cool. And if you are into yarn, Bloomin' Woolens also has a CSA where every 2 months they send you a pound of yarn. And if you are into crafting of any sort that involves fiber, you understand that a pound of yarn is a lot of yardage. That you can probably get a good sweater maybe and a half out of that much yarn. So check out their website, bloomwoolenyarns.com, for more information on that. Having a constant year supply of yarn, that seems like a really great thing. And there's different colorways for it too. So if you've got a couple of projects going or are looking for something new to kind of inspire, it seems like a really good thing to do. Different weights, different colors, different ways to experiment, all wicked cool things. And thanks again to Lisa Fortin for letting me hang out with your sheep who were definitely very afraid of me. Alas, I love them so. On the next Fabulous 413, we meet winemaker Kate Norris of Division Wines from the Pacific Northwest and hear more about one of the U.S.'s most interesting regions from someone working within it. We'll also explore regionalisms with word nerd Emily Brewster, who's from Pittsburgh herself, so she's one of those Yinzers. And we will push our soda agenda against those who follow the pop and Coke ethos, shall we say. Plus Live Music Friday with Sophia St. Helen and Michael Lesko, who will play at the Parlor Room on Saturday. I'm Khalees Smith. See you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.